Welcome to Pour It On. I am your host, Shaun Emerson, for this episode 5. Pour It On is a podcast about male friendship, life's challenges and joys, and making the most of our time here. When the chaos of life makes you want to bottle it in, don't let it. Grab your drink of choice, enjoy the moment, and let's pour it on. And I'm here with my friends, Ben and Chris. Let me introduce myself first, I guess. I'm the host, Shaun Emerson. I am a husband, father, entrepreneur, lover of all beings. And it's so good to be here with you guys. Chris?
Yeah, Chris Lozier, checking in here from Chicago, drinking again. I mean, Half Acre, they should be our sponsor. Drinking another Half Acre Waybird Hazy IPA. Also proud father, very proud father. My 2 girls who are 16 and 20 are leaving Saturday to go to Europe for 10 days together.
Wow.
Which is really exciting. Yeah. Awesome. Right. That's what you hope for. I hope your kids they like each other enough that they want to do adventures like that together. Whatever. I'm a bluegrass picker. So Ben.
Yeah. I still got to hear you play. There's a lot of things I have to do, which we can cover across our podcast. I am Ben Feller. I am living in Brooklyn. I am drinking a Two-Hearted IPA from Bell's. Always hits the spot. And I make my living helping companies figure out the best way to tell their story. And I solve their problems. And when I don't know what to say, what I want to say, and I'm stuck on problems, I call the law firm of Emerson and Lozier.
Oh boy.
Yes.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Yes, I know.
Oh boy.
You guys don't charge me a lot, which is great. But we figure things out together. And welcome back to our ever-growing and curious audience about what Pour It On is about. We're really enjoying this, and hopefully you guys are too, whoever is listening.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. I forgot to say, I'm drinking Cali water. Maybe for a subject for another call, but I turned 62 on the 29th of June. And I think I'm retiring from drinking. So, retirement. I'm considering retirement. So,
hey, I just want you to know, if you decide to do that, we support you. I would also want you to know that for you to quit drinking right when we launch a podcast called Pour It On.
I know. It's ironic. Is that irony, Ben?
I don't think that's irony.
Is that irony?
I've got other words in mind, and they're all 4 letters. But you do you, Shaun.
We launched before my birthday, so I mean, it's not really a milestone. I don't 62, but anyways, So 44 years. I think I've calculated 44 years. That I've been putting into that job, the drinking job, and it may just be enough.
Yeah.
Anyways, for our topic of conversation today for this show. I came upon an article recently. I get this newsletter, Tiny Buddha, and the title of this article is "A Case for Joy in a Monetized World." And the author goes on to kind of talk about how everything we do, or most everything we do from birth to death, has a price tag associated with it. I mean, everything is associated with, so much is associated with money. And I think at some level, I catch myself occasionally doing this, which is, and maybe it fits very nicely with this Tiny Buddha thing, which is, non-attachment, live in the moment, mindfulness, all this self-development, self-help kind of stuff. And how do we marry that with the real world? And so I thought we would today kind of talk about that and the factor of money in living, the pressure and association with it, and how it can be very difficult for a lot of people these days, maybe more so than ever. And so that's the chum in the water, fellas. So who would like to go first?
See this, Ben? I'm holding my finger to my nose. You know what that means? In the podcast world, that means you have to go first because I'm not.
You know, Chris, when you say things out loud, people hear you.
but I produce these shows. I could just mute that shit out, right? It's easy for me.
The finger against the nose, though, that's a sting thing, right?
Yes, that is a sting reference, and
it is.
Yes, that's
there we go.
Great movie, by the way, which we found a way to tuck in the movie reference early this time.
Done.
I cannot wait to introduce my son to this thing. Yeah, I'll go first. I mean, Shaun, it is a topic that I think about daily. I like to distinguish, or I'm trying to distinguish between the desire for things that money can pay for and the desire for security that money provides. And I like nice things. But really where I'm at a stage of life where, just like we talked about in our last episode, or maybe 2 episodes ago about what would you tell your 10-year-old self, I was talking about a life of freedom, building a life of freedom so that at this stage of life, I'd have more time. I'd have more freedom and time. And the same thing goes to money. Like, I'm not really looking for more things, but I'd love to have that feeling of things can go sideways here or not, and I'm okay. And if you don't have that and you see health problems around you, a kid, getting into high school and ready for college, like all these, just the cost of living in the country, it can really eat away at your mental health if you don't have that kind of security. And so that's what I kind of struggle with. I don't have as much struggle with the comparison that I know Chris has talked about in our previous podcast as a thief of joy. But I will tell you this before I get your thoughts on this, Chris. When I moved here being New York City, over 10 years ago, about 12 years ago now, and I was leaving a pretty high profile position covering the White House for the AP, and I was deciding what I wanted to do next. And I was checking out all kinds of jobs. And one of them was to the idea of staying in journalism. And I talked to this guy who's a name brand journalist. And we went through all these things. If you write a book, if you work for magazines, if you try to go to TV. And he said, and we were kind of wrapping up. He's like, but just let me give you one piece of advice that covers all of it. He goes, be very careful about this city because the conversations you're going to be part of will make you think you never have enough money. He's like, when we leave this coffee, I'm going home. And I live at the penthouse floor of a building in Brooklyn that oversees every bridge. I can see them all. And my wife has a great job. And we just spend our nights talking about, like, why weren't we invited to that party? And why don't we have a nicer car? It is insidious. He's like, and we're doing great. I mean, this guy was very confident in how well he was doing. And I've seen that conversation play out over my 12 years here in the most crazy ways. Like when my son was a toddler, and 2 or 3, and people were talking about private education and all these things. And if you don't have it, good luck. I'm like, wait a minute. I'm behind because I'm not, and so I try to not tune into that conversation and get into the comparison conversation, but rather, what do I need? What does my family need to feel secure? And that's the thing that I focus on. Focus on.
So if you're willing to share, when you say, things could go sideways and, we might not be okay, can you share what that means to you? I mean, what you think about as the negative and where it could go,
or worry about,
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it really is no more complicated than the basics. Got a good job provides health insurance. I put away money for the 401k, try to take a vacation once a year. If I want to splurge on something, I try not to worry about it and do it. But yeah, I mean, all of those things are dependent on the job continuing to go at a certain level. And I am surrounded, I would say once a week, conservatively, by people who email me and call me and say, hey, Ben, I'm thinking about making a change, or I got laid off. You've made the switch from journalism to consulting. How, can you talk to me about it? I see people who are laid off. I see people feel the financial strain, and I'm a guy grinding away.
Yeah.
I got a lot of good things happening, but I'm grinding away. There is no level. It's all climbing. And so it could go sideways. Is like, it could be anything, Shaun. And then if that happens, I'll deal with it like I have before, and a lot of people listening have before. But the idea that it's kind of like, yeah, we're kind of cruising, and you might have like a down month or something, like, nope, it's all grind. So you gotta, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm 54. Is that, I've been at this a while. Like, when is that going to, and every time I've had this conversation with anybody, it comes down to basically, well, that's how it is.
Yeah.
That's how it is. People don't know what to say because they're in the same situation, you know.
It's what you said or what your friend shared with you or your colleague makes me think of something I've heard before. I've never fact checked, and I don't know if it's a real thing. But have you guys ever heard, and maybe this will be the litmus test, of this thing called the arrival fallacy, where it's that notion, the psychological notion that, or maybe it's a false belief that once you arrive at a certain goal. So like for me, it's like when I get that Rivian RS1 or R1S, whatever the fuck it's called, that I really, really want, and then I'll be happy, right? Then I will achieve lasting happiness. And what ends up happening, and it sounds like that's what your friend was describing, is like, we just keep moving the goalposts, right? And I think we all, I don't know if it's human nature. I don't know if it's specific to type A personalities, overachievers, whatever, but it's always like, okay, I got the Rivian, and now I need bigger closets in my house, or now I need to redesign my kitchen or some shit like that. So, and that goes to the point you talked about, which is money as utility, money to get the things that we want. Does that, I mean, do you guys think you guys are moving the goalposts?
I don't. I mean, I want to hear it if you feel what your level of security is and how much you think about this, Chris. But no, to me, the goalpost conversation is less about me moving them, like this guy was talking about, and more what we talked about in an earlier episode, which is it's not just the pressure we put on ourselves. Got the apartment, that got to get the house. Got the house, got to get the bigger house. That's not how I am thinking about this. It's as much about the challenges that others put on me and on us. Like you've got to do these things. You have to do these things, and that's part of the life that I lead. It's a combination of my drive and others' expectations, and between the two of them, I'm really proud of what I do and where I work, and I'm proud of what I offer. But one of the hardest things that I do, and anybody I know that's even remotely connected to my field that we do, is convincing people to pay you. Because it is very tough. Everybody's got these tough budget decisions, and when you put all of those together, Chris, it just multiplies into this layered thing, and it makes it really, really fraught sometimes.
Yeah,
because you can't control that outcome. But like, do you, putting aside the moving the goalpost thing, like, is this whole topic something that gives you any concern? I know you recently switched jobs.
Yeah. Well, absolutely it does, but I think it's for different reasons, because you named two things about money that make you think about it, and both of them involve purchasing power, right? That's like either buy the nice things that you want, or buy the flexibility and the assurance that you're going to be okay if things go sideways, right? I think there's a third slippery slope that I'm probably more prone to and arguably less proud of, which is, I mean, if I'm being really honest, it's like ascribing my human or personal value to my monetary value, right? Which is, that does go back to the comparison thing. Now, look, I chose to go in the Navy. That was to pay for college. But then I worked in the private sector. And around Obama 1, as you guys both know, I went back to the private or the nonprofit sector, because what I was missing was purpose and, doing whatever I can to make the world better. And yet I still find myself doing this. I still think, oh God, I think there's, it's status in a way. It's not healthy. But I'm blessed to have a lot of high net worth and some ultra high net worth friends. And I find myself, and I don't talk about this, but I find myself thinking like, oh, those guys have done better than me, or those gals are better than me. which is even more painful to sort of grapple with. So, in my truest moments, I'm like, I know that's not true, and yet my mind still goes there.
That's tough. I mean, I've got a bunch to pull threads on that one, Chris. But Shaun, you framed the question up. Curious how you think about this topic, and once again, I give you, like I say this sometimes jokingly, sometimes not, but you convey a sense of ease about life, and namaste. And I'm like, does that guy live that way on his schedule conflicts and his money stresses? And like, so this is, I'm glad we're talking about this. Like, is this something that you grapple with?
So I would say that we my wife and I, we are in very good financial situation and very grateful that we have to do that. And a lot of that has to do with, most of it has to do with the work that Lisa did over her career. And so I would say, particularly as it comes to stuff, I mean, I'm trying to get rid of stuff more than I'm trying to get stuff. So we just moved my daughter and her fiance into their house yesterday. I couldn't believe how many fucking clothes they had. It was unbelievable. I mean, it was unbelievable. And the whole time I'm just thinking, you could get rid of half this stuff and still not wear the same stuff twice in a year. And so that's not, I'm not really, when you talk about moving the goalposts, I'm never thinking about moving the goalposts. And again, that's why maybe when those basic needs are met. I mean, I think about, we did a call today for our partnership with AARP Illinois, and there's 16 men there over 50, and one of them 65, caregiving for his brother who has early onset Alzheimer's, just lost his job. And it's saying, how, I would love to retire, but I can't. How am I going to do that? And that's what I think about. I mean, it's like, I'm so fortunate to not be thinking about that. And is that somebody, that we can help, that we can support? And so completely understand if our basic needs aren't taken care of. It's you think about Maslow, where the highest is enlightenment. Can you work your way down from the pyramid versus the way up? I don't know.
Well,
if that makes sense.
It makes total sense. And also, I don't think any of us are here to suggest that money isn't necessary, right? I think you have to pay for certain things. If you're lucky enough to have kids, you got to pay for them, to feed them and to educate them and everything else, and maybe take care of them. You may have to pay for your parents' caretaking when they get older, right? Ben, you were just talking about your dad earlier, and so it's like a necessary. I don't want to call it an evil, but it's not. It's not an evil. It's just necessary. How's that for splitting hairs? I do think, just to draw back on the arts again, one of my favorite songs in the world is this song by Jason Isbell called "Relatively Easy," and there's a line in it where he goes, "You should know, compared to people on a global scale, our kind has had it relatively easy." And so we're three fortunate guys of privilege here.
Right.
And so this should not be construed as us singing, a sad song, but no one's immune to it, right?
Yeah, I mean, and you also have to account for the unknowns. And so in my case, we all have kids. Chris, you mentioned that your daughters are taking this trip, and Shaun, you just moved in yours to a new place. Like, those are awesome milestones. And that's what I hear about them, obviously, is like your joy for your kids and their development. My son is starting high school in a few weeks, and so the college consideration is creeping into mind. I have no idea what that means. No idea, right? It could be an enormous bill, or it could be a modest bill, or it could be scholarships, or who maybe will take a gap year. I don't know. But it's something that absolutely affects how I think about work and money considerably for the next several years. And that's just one thing. And that's the tricky part about this conversation. It's not a complaint. It doesn't mean to suggest that we don't have privilege. And I've done things in my life that really have nothing to do with money, but they have to do with access. I used to cover the president and fly. I was on Air Force One hundreds of times. Like, what's the monetary value of that? There is none. It's just an experience I have that I feel really grateful for. So it's really not a complaint. But to your point, Chris, I don't think we can go the other way and say, like, well, if you're doing better than a lot of other people, you don't even get to talk about it. It's like, no, of course we're going to talk about it. Like, why do you think I'm working this hard?
I'm just curious, Ben, when you were negotiating your comp with AP, were they like, no, I mean, you get to fly on Air Force One all the time. You'll take this, right? I mean, you can't put a price tag on that, Ben. So you'd be excited for the salary, right? Is that how it went?
There's never been a sentence that included negotiating comp with the AP. But there was absolutely a you get to do this attitude. And, look, they were right.
Yeah.
When I left that life and wwent into consulting, the first job I had, I've only had 2 positions after that. I've been working at 2 firms in the last many years. The pay jump was considerable. There were trade-offs to it, but it was like, oh, okay, so if you leave, and they weren't saying like, you get to work here, you should take, it's like that's what that job was. On the other hand, there are very few people walking around that were the White House correspondent for the AP. So I knew even at that younger age, like, I get it. I get what this is going to be.
Well, and just for the listeners, if people that are working at Ms. Lansky are listening to this, that is way better to work there than the AP, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, Shaun,
you get to work there.
Yeah, right. I was struck by your question. I'm like, is that even a question? Yeah.
Right. Of course.
Is he being serious?
Of course.
Yeah,
right.
Obviously.
Yeah.
But the other thing too is that I was talking with somebody today, a colleague, about when you do splurge and you get out of your comfort zone, or what maybe you should be spending money on something. Why do you do that? So for me, Chris, thinking about your goalpost question, I don't do it, or at least I haven't yet, because I think like I'm trying to get to my neighbor's status, or I need this thing that I don't have. It's because I'm trying to create a moment that, why not? So the best example that comes to mind for me is when I was trying to get my son acknowledged by Aaron Judge of the Yankees. And I've told you guys this story, but for listeners who haven't heard it, the short version is we made a sign together, and it says, "Hey, Aaron, thanks for making me a baseball fan," when my son was really young. And we kept going to Yankee games, kept going like once a year. And there were thousands and thousands of fans trying to get his attention. And no matter where we were positioned out in the outfield, we couldn't get his attention. And so it became a mission. And we kept going back, and then the pandemic canceled a season for fans. And finally I was so bummed out by the pandemic and so many things. I'm like, damn it, I know how to fix this problem, because that's what Sam says I do. Fix the problem, I'll just get us tickets right next to the dugout. Like, how could he not miss the sign then? He's 6'7". There's nothing. And so I got these tickets, and my God, were they expensive.
Yeah.
And I felt almost weird as we went, because you go through this VIP thing and you're in this lounge and all these people wait. And I'm like, I just wanted to go sit closer. Like, what's all this like? And Sam's like, we get free ice cream. Like, okay. So we ended up getting his attention. He left the dugout and got a foul ball that Brett Gardner had hit and threw it over the net to Sam. Wow. And then after the game, there was one couple between us and the dugout. They left and said, "You guys come stand here." And Aaron Judge came in and didn't sign any autographs. And then he changed his mind and came back out and signed one for my son. And so I can honestly say I don't remember anymore what I paid for the tickets. I know it was a lot, but that experience is like, okay, well, and so that's how I try to see those things, Chris.
Yeah.
But I just to finish off that story, George Clooney was in Broadway this spring and summer, doing Good Night and Good Luck, and I'm like, oh my God, a quintessential journalism story. I remember the movie, Clooney, Broadway. I live here. Didn't go. Couldn't stomach the prices. Couldn't afford the prices. And somebody would hear that and be like, what do you mean? Like, I'm like, no, I can't do it right now. Cannot do it. So the choices, and like, that's a first world problem. But some of that stuff, I'm like, the pain of spending it isn't even worth it. But the Judge story made it worth it. And so I don't know. It all goes in the wash of what you deem important,
Would you pay that money for the third place Yankees right now? I didn't bring it up. I just for the record, I did not bring it up, but it's just laying there on the table. Yeah. So
feels like you did, but I would say
I was just reminded. I was just reminded when you brought up the Yankees that there's shit going on that's not good for you.
Look, Shaun, it's a small payroll, so why would you expect them to do well?
I would say I probably would pay it, Shaun, because the prices have gone down with every loss.
Right. You get those seats for a steal these days. Right.
I want to go back to the article you sent us and referenced, the Tony Collins article in Tiny Buddha. I sort of pushed back on you, Ben, because you talked about what I termed purchasing power of money, whether it's for the things that are nice or the stability and the assurance, et cetera. My case was also really about purchasing power away. It was about purchasing status. But the line from that article that I really appreciated was he wrote, I couldn't shake the feeling that too often we push kids towards what's useful before they know what they love. And so it's this, I think that's the potentially worst thing about money and, how we raise our kids to think about money, which is, I think we just won't need to prioritize this. I talked about the Rivian that I really want. And I talked about how we make no money off of the 2 podcasts that we do. And I wouldn't trade these podcasts for a fucking Rivian, even if it was the decked out quad motor Rivian that goes 0 to 60 in 4 seconds.
Really?
Maybe I would. I would.
Was that for the listeners?
No. I would think hard about it.
You underestimate his love for us, Shaun. I don't. I estimate it perfectly.
Or maybe you're inflating the value I put on Rivians, although I've talked about it way too much. Yeah. But isn't that I'm being very serious about, Shaun, you and I say this all the time about if you've come this far, it's like we would do it. Of course. We do it, not making any money. Right. We would do it if nobody listened because it fills our cup, right? Yeah. It brings us joy. And so, I just want to not forget that the money is not the source of joy. The nice things are not the source of joy. The status is not a source of joy, for what it's worth. But I really love that line.
You said if we would do it, even if people didn't listen. Are we sure people listen? We don't really.
I've said it time and time again. Dozens of people listen to our podcast.
Right.
So,
they listen to Ben. They listen to the episodes with Ben. I think is
that's
what
right.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to go back to Shaun, what you said about the place that you and your family, and which is phenomenal, and you sort of maybe downplayed your role in that too, in the work that you've done. But does this conversation become harder to relate to when you do have security?
I think inevitably it does. I would think, because and again, both of us didn't have any, had very little growing up, and I think it's it makes it honestly, it's a difficult thing to talk about. Mm-hmm. And so, yes.
Because the reason I asked that in particular is one of the reasons we started this podcast, and one of the things that I'm finding as we do it and start to get some feedback, is that these are difficult things to talk about. I think I know a lot of men assign their value to this the way Chris was talking about. Not just the ability to pay for college, pay for bills, can I go out to eat with my family, but I mean assign their value. It can be like emasculating, certainly a source of pride and shame if you don't have some bank. And I think that what do you do with that? Right? What do you do with that frustration? What do you do with that shame? Well, I think that default mode for men is like, I might try to get more money. I might try to have a side hustle. I might try to get up earlier, but I'm sure I'm not going to talk about it. Like, what's the gain from that? I'm just going to keep it right here in my chest and increase the chances of other stresses and heart attacks by my mid 50s. And that's part of why I think we should talk about it, is not to say, how did you make your money, but what do you do if you're not doing well? You know?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, hopefully people listening to this, like with all of our conversations, will at least feel some community about it, you know? And I'm also, the reason I brought that up is that, you know, this is a podcast for everyone, for all humans, but it is distinctly from a male perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that it's something that a lot of men think about is, you know, it's kind of rooted, like providers. Got to provide.
Yeah.
Got to provide. It's really not about the nice guitar or the car. It's got to provide.
Well, and I think, and you know, I will say that, you know, whether it be concepts of masculinity or femininity or what have you, those are boxes that both men and women get put into that may or may not resonate with who they are, and that I think adds even more pressure to the individual if that's not what they want, if that's not who they are, if that's not what they want to meet those structures that we get once we come out of the womb. So
I think, sorry, Chris, we're missing a really important question here, Chris, which is, if Shaun is trying to get rid of stuff, is there any stuff you want to give to Chris and me?
Like we get first dibs, right, on your stuff.
Sure. I mean, I've already done a good job of purging, so there ain't much.
Oh,
but
okay.
Yeah,
we missed the window.
Yeah, I'd be happy. Yes.
And I don't want your putter because I can see that it doesn't work. So
I don't know. See, don't lead the listeners on. Don't. It's not true.
Last thing on this, I feel like we should also add a disclaimer, like, being successful and making a lot of money is not bad in any way, shape, or form. Like, it's like, this is not this sort of binary thing where money bad, you know, poverty good. Like that's not at all it. And in fact, you know, most of the people I know who have made a lot of money have enjoyed doing it, right? They've made it in ways that does fill their cup. And so all those things are possible. It's not either or.
Well, and you know, we focus on this question of money today, and you know, growing up in a culture that's got a price tag on everything, and not to oversimplify. If you're attached, I think for me, again, back to Tiny Buddha, if you're attached to outcomes, no matter what you got, then you can be miserable. And so how you process living your life, you know, I think is critical in this whole discussion of where we go and what we do. And you know, we need a roof, we need some food. And if we don't have that, then that's a difficult place to be.
Yeah, I think that's the most important point of all is how do you frame what success is?
Yeah.
And the more we think about it reflectively, and the older we get, I think it's like, do I have enough to do the things I need to do? Mm-hmm. And if you have more than that, great. But it really is about the basics and security, I think, because the rest of it, you just kind of instinctively becomes less important, at least for the three of us, you know. And I increasingly thinking about my son and my parents and all of those things. And it's really not about stuff. It's about security. But I do not define a successful life around how much money I have. But I absolutely think it would be silly to not inject the real stress of making money in the conversation. Because I'm glad you asked about all this, because it's real.
Yeah.
It's real.
Yeah.
Another good conversation, fellas. I want to thank all our listeners for joining us on today's episode and joining us on this adventure that we're on together. If you enjoyed this conversation, We hope you did. Please tell a friend. You can find this podcast on Apple and Spotify, wherever you find your podcasts. And if you'd like to learn more about any of us, you can find us all on LinkedIn. Until next time, remember, you don't have to bottle it in. Let's pour it on together.
Thanks, guys. I got some more work to do. Got to make some money. I'll.
And with that,
Peace and love, boys.
See you, boys.
Right, take care. Bye.